Everything they say and do, or most of what they say and do, they're playing a bit of a game. And they're often following scripted negotiations. Now, I'm kind of going a bit to the extreme. Not all of them are kind of this hardcore, but I would say that the lion's share, the greatest percentage are. So, step one, make the supplier believe it probably won't work out. You could say, you know what, we love your brand, love having you on the roster so much, we're going to do this pro bono. They have to say, no, that's too much. They have to say it. No, we'll have to look at what you guys will have to pay us to have the account. So what will happen is we take it personally. We think it's really about us, but it's about the negotiation process. Especially if you know the other party is a little bit desperate, that's the first thing you want to do. You'll find that that's so basic, you'll find it on a blog post in a million places. Make them worry right out of the gate. I remember an agency that we've done some work with just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. They won a pretty large piece of an automotive account, an import automotive brand. I won't name them, but they won it. Literally have the champagne corked. They're celebrating. It had been like a 2.5 month process. It was supposed to be 4 weeks. Kind of went on forever. They win. The CEO gets a call from the head of procurement. And he takes the call and thinking that the guy's calling to congratulate them. And he said, yeah, I am sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I was told that you were somehow told that you had won the review. I need to let you guys know that he literally said, it's not going to work. I had to look at the numbers, and I'm sorry, but we're going to have to look at one of the other agencies in the mix. So this, you can imagine getting that, like you've literally got champagne in one hand, the phone in the other, and you're like, what? But he says, he kind of adds in there, the procurement person says, unless you guys want to come in and talk about it for a couple of minutes, we probably could. So he just leaves the door open a crack. So the CEO, who didn't realize till a couple of weeks later sort of what was going on, of course, he says, whoa, no, don't hang up. Yes, let's talk. When are you available? When can I get over there? Let's talk about. We'll find a way to work it out. Don't get all. Just let's book in a time. So they got a time booked for a few days later. He said, what do I start doing right away? How much do we need to lower our fee? He's like, 10%, 15%, like we've lost it. So, man, we're going to have to bring. It was a 45-second phone call, and the fee was already down 15%. It was afterwards that he realized that this was a basic. He learned, not only once they completed the negotiations, he learned from the marketing team that there was no way they would have had it taken away from them. The proposal was relatively in the range. It wasn't a big deal. But he didn't find that out because they were blocking access for a while. So they didn't have that intel, that information. Then it gets worse because they showed up at the client's offices. These guys are like draconian with their negotiation tactics. They show up at the offices. They let the receptionist know they're there. They take a seat. 10 minutes goes by. 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Oh, the other part. They're sitting there in the reception. There's one of those smoked dome cameras above them, so they don't talk. Because they're like, maybe we're being watched. So now, he said, I am so in my head. He said, I actually uttered in my head the words pro bono. It's such a high-profile brand. Should we just, he said, I am so messed up at this point. Then we start looking at each other like maybe they've just canned us and they're not even going to tell us. So they check with the reception. Nope, they know you're here. 45 minutes later, they come and collect them. Turns out it's still not the procurement person. Takes them to a room where the label on the room was negotiation room. So there's going to be some medieval equipment in here or something. No windows, bad fluorescent lighting. They sit down, camera above the table, and that person leaves. They're like, what the fuck is going on here? So then on the hour, an hour later, the procurement executive shows up. What he realized later was the procurement person made them wait an hour because by the time they show up, the person's putty now. It was another tactic. Schedule it an hour before the meeting really is going to start as a way of getting them unnerved, a little bit more desperate. Now, thankfully, that's not something that we hear every day, but those are the kind of things that some of the more extreme procurement departments are doing. So step 2 in the script, never accept the supplier's first offer. I mean, any book you read will say you don't accept it. You gotta tell them, no, it's gotta come down, it's gotta make a shift. Compare the supplier to fake pricing models and inaccurate comparisons. How many times have you heard that? Well, when I look at the other agencies in the mix or some of the other analysis that we've done, man, you guys are like 32% higher. What I've heard from quite a number of procurement executives is that this is often a bluff. You have every right, when they say this, to ask for the data so that you can make sure it's apples to apples, just like how they want to say it's apples to apples. You have every right to ask for these comparisons. Now, don't in a grandstanding kind of way. It's like, all right, I can understand if we're that much more and the same type of agency, same quality of agency, and it's the exact same scope, just go ahead and send it over and we'll have a look. And if they say, well, it's confidential, we can redact the name of the agency. We don't need to know who it is. We just need to make sure that it's apples to apples from capabilities and scope. And if it's exactly apples to apples, then we'll come back and talk about the fee. Ask for it. You have every right to, if they're saying they've got some kind of model in the background. There's too many people in the staffing plan. You've never heard that before, right? Do we really need that account executive? That account director? Do we really need all those people? Does it take that long? That many hours, are you sure? So that's another one. I'm going to talk about how to counter that one a little bit. I'll come back to that. Scope creep. We are seeing scope creep as a premeditated negotiation tactic. Not as much of just happens to take place along the way as it sort of seems to us. Sometimes it's happening where they will, and I'm sure you've seen this, here's the scope, you put in your numbers, and you've probably not been told what the budget is, which is another tactic because now you don't have a base to negotiate from. So you've got the scope, you put in your numbers, and they say, perfect, we'll take all that scope and then we'll cut the fee. And then once you agree to that, then the scope goes up. And they know that you'll do it because all agencies do. They know that you will say, okay, and sign at the dotted line and off we go. Back to the budget point here. One of the reasons, it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons they don't provide a budget is it gives them the power in the negotiation process. If you knew what the budget was, you'd have something to negotiate against. But keeping you a little bit blind doesn't give you that base. The other reason they don't is there's still a bit of a belief that if we tell them we have $1 million, they'll come back asking for $1.5 million because that's how agencies think. And they're also thinking, well, maybe they only come in at 500, we achieve the objectives and we save some money. More suppliers equals more price competition during the pitch. That's, the long time rise now of 12, 15, 20 agencies in a review. I think we all kind of get why that, but that's also why, with so many agencies in each review, why many of them are filler. Because the marketing department doesn't have the time to fully vet every single agency that's being invited. They'll vet one or two, because they have to know that one or two will hit it out of the park and do a good showing. They don't have time to look at the rest. So the amount of filler agencies just to meet the pitch participation quota has gone up quite dramatically. More suppliers equals more price competition during the ongoing relationship, i.e. more roster agencies. There's a belief that the clients will get better work, more work for the money if they have to fight for their food. And fight we will. This happens a lot now. We see this a lot in the last couple of years. Stalling the negotiation process. The negotiation process is only supposed to take a few days. We'll have this all nailed by Friday. They stall and they stall and they get closer to the launch point to where you almost have you're at a place in your head where you have no choice but to sign the agreement. We're hearing this one a lot. And they know that you're so mentally committed. You have made, in fact, we're hearing more stories of the work beginning and the contract isn't even signed yet. You're screwed when that happens because there's no way you're going to say no. Whatever it ends up being, you're going to find a way, no matter how low the number gets, to sign. This is a newer one. We just heard this from a couple of procurement departments on the West Coast, from the agencies. Booking key negotiation meetings when they know you're not available. So there's one client that did this with an agency that we're working with. Sent them the email, all right, we're going to have you come in for the meeting, we'll go through the numbers and everything. Send us all your availability for this week. And the agency sent them over. And they get a reply with, all right, this is when we'll do it. And it was during none of the available periods. So they emailed back, no, that guys, maybe, I know you're busy, sorry to bother you, you probably didn't notice, we had completely different dates and times. And the reply was, no, sorry, that's our only availability. So they know that what happens is somebody on the team now is probably committed to a client meeting or something else, so it starts to split up the team. It starts to divide your power. And at minimum, it's another one that just kind of throws you off balance.